Macmillan Audio presents The Paris Winter by Imogen Robertson. Read for you by Rebecca Knight.
Prologue. At the Academie Lafond, oil on board 29.3 by 23.6 centimetres. This charming, loosely painted study shows a life class in progress. The model is just visible on the left, but it is the students, bored, intent, or nervous, who are the subjects of the painting. One seems to be blowing on her hands to warm them. Lafond began offering training to young artists, male and female, in 1875, and opened his first all-female atelier in 1890, 7 years before women were admitted to the Academie des Beaux-Arts. He managed his various studios in Paris with great success until his death in 1919. His students received a thorough training in oils and were encouraged to be both experimental and imaginative in their use of colour and in their composition. The tonal range in this painting is narrow and the colours cold, the model almost invisible, and the students placed almost haphazardly in the frame. In this way, the artist gives an impression of a snatched, unstaged moment on a chilly morning. Note the middle-class appearance of the women in the portrait. Lafond's fees for women were high, but his reputation was irreproachable. Extract from the catalogue note to the exhibition The Paris Winter, Anonymous Treasures from the de Sèvres collection, Southwark Picture Gallery, London, 2010. Part 1. Saturday, 20th of November, 1909, Paris. Chapter 1. The news of the suicide of Rose Champion reached her fellow students at the Academie Lafond on a pale wintry morning a little before 10 o'clock. The heat from the black and clanking stove had not yet reached the far corners of the studio, and the women on the outer reaches of the group had to blow on their fingers to make them warm enough to work. Maud Heighton was always one of the first to arrive each day and set up her easel, which meant she could have taken her pick of places on each Monday when the model for the week was chosen, but the Englishwoman liked to sit on the far eastern side of the room. The challenge of the narrow angle she had on the model throne, and whatever man, woman, or child happened to occupy it, seemed to please her, and she returned to the spot week after week when warmer ones, or those with an easier angle of view, were available. She was there that morning, silent and studious as ever, when the news of Rose's death came tumbling up the stairs. So she was among the first to hear it. It was unfortunate, shocking even, that the news reached the female students so raw and sudden, but even in the best-run establishments such things do occur. It was by chance the women painting in Passage de Panorama heard so quickly and so brutally of the tragedy. One of Lafond's male students, a young romantic Englishman called John Edwards, lived in the room beside Rose Champion's in a shabby tenement hunkered off the boulevard Clichy. It was an unpleasant building without gas or electricity, and with only one tap which all the inhabitants had to share. He knew his neighbour was a student in one of the all-female ateliers, but she was not pretty enough to attract his attention, not while the streets were full of French girls who made it their business to charm the male gaze. What's more, he assumed that as a woman she would have little of interest to say about art. When he took up his residence, though, he noticed that Rose kept herself and her threadbare wardrobe clean and approved of that, then thought no more about her. In the month they had been neighbours. They had had one short conversation on the stairs about teaching at Academie Lafond. It ended when he asked to see her work, and Rose told him he wouldn't understand it. He had only wished to be polite and was offended by her refusal. They did not speak again. The walls that divided their room were thin, and he happened to be awake and waiting that morning for the matte grey light of the Paris dawn to filter in.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?